Picture it. 50,000 years ago, the sun is going down and you are crouched over a fresh kill on an open plain. Warm meat, a full evening's work, and 30 meters away in the long grass, a lion is watching you. Every nerve in your body is screaming one word: run. But here is the part that should stop you cold. Even if the lion were the one in trouble, even if you had the spears, the numbers, the perfect ambush, you still would not go after it. For 2 million years, your ancestors hunted almost everything that walked, swam, or flew. Mammoths the size of a bus, deer with antlers wider than a car, but the lions, the leopards, the great cave bears sitting at the very top of the food chain, those we left alone, almost always, and the reason we left them alone is so much stranger than fear. Let me show you. Let's get the size of this straight first because it is bigger than it sounds. In 2021, a team of researchers led by Mickey Ben-Dor and Ron Barkai at Tel Aviv University did something ambitious. They pulled together decades of scattered evidence, the chemistry locked inside fossil bones, the cut marks on butchered carcasses, even the acid in our own stomachs, and they reconstructed what humans actually ate across the deep past. Their conclusion was blunt. For something like 2 million years, we were not gentle foragers nibbling on berries. We were hypercarnivores, apex predators in our own right, built for meat. Here is one detail that sticks with you. Human stomach acid is brutally strong, closer to a vulture's than to most other primates. The gut of an animal that eats a lot of meat, some of it not exactly fresh. So we were killers. Confident, capable, top-of-the-chain killers, which makes the puzzle sharper, not softer. Because these same apex predator humans, the ones who would take on a mammoth, almost never went after the other apex predators sharing their land. And the easy explanations don't survive contact with the evidence. Fear? We charged animals 10 times our size. Taboo? That comes later, and it is a cultural layer, not the root. Taste? People will eat almost anything when they have to. No. The real answer comes in 4 layers. 3 of them are about cold survival logic. And the 4th one quietly rewrites who you think you are. Start with the math, because it is brutal. And it is clean. In 1942, a young ecologist named Raymond Lindemann published a paper that rewired how scientists see every food chain on Earth. He died the very next year at 27 before he could see how important it became. His insight got boiled down into a single savage rule of thumb: the 10% rule. When energy moves from one rung of the food chain up to the next, about 90% of it is lost, burned off as heat, as movement, as the simple cost of being alive. Picture it like this. A vast meadow of grass holds an enormous amount of energy. The deer grazing on that meadow capture only about a tenth of it, and the lion that eats the deer captures only a tenth of that. Stack 2 steps up the ladder, and you are down to roughly 1% of where you started. So a lion is not just a dangerous animal. A lion is an expensive one. Every mouthful of predator is the thin, leftover residue of energy that already passed through an entire chain of living things before it reached those teeth. Now put yourself back on that plane, thinking like a hunter who needs calories to survive the week. Chasing the lion means paying 10 times the price, in risk, in effort, in broken bones for a fraction of the food. Meanwhile, the herbivores below it are everywhere. Fatter, slower, safer, packed with far more energy per bite. The smart move isn't bravery, it's arithmetic. Hunt the thing eating the grass, never the thing eating that. That is the first reason, and it is written into the planet itself. And here is the other half of that grim math. Because predators sit so high up, where energy is so scarce, there are barely any of them to begin with. A single lion needs an entire territory packed with prey just to stay alive. So even if you decided you wanted to hunt one, you would first have to find one. And they are rare by design. The creatures at the top of the pyramid are not just expensive to eat, they are hard to even meet. But arithmetic alone won't kill you, the second layer will. So let's say you ignore the math. You are desperate or proud or just stubborn. You corner a predator, you win the fight, and now you are standing over a dead leopard with a full belly waiting. Here is the trap the world set for you, one so well hidden, it took us until the last century to fully understand it. Predators don't only concentrate energy losses as you climb the food chain, concentrate poison. The clearest example is a single vitamin, vitamin A. In small doses, you need it for your eyes, your skin, your immune system. But it is the kind of nutrient that doesn't flush out. It stockpiles in the body and it pools, especially in the liver, and it builds up the food chain step after step until the animals at the very top are carrying staggering amounts. A healthy adult can safely handle roughly 3,000 micrograms of it a day. Now consider the polar bear, an apex predator's apex predator. Analyses of polar bear liver have found it can carry around 18,000 units of vitamin A in a single gram. 1 gram. A real bite is many grams. And we are not talking about a stomachache. Arctic explorers found this out in the worst way a body can teach it. Sailors who ate polar bear liver were struck down within hours. Vertigo, pounding headaches, vomiting. And then came the truly grim part. Their skin began to peel off. In sheets. Off the face, the hands, the soles of the feet. The medical name is hypervitaminosis A, and a large enough dose can kill a healthy adult in a matter of days. And here is the quiet genius of it. The people who actually lived in that world already knew. Inuit hunters had a rule, passed down long before anyone could measure a microgram. You do not eat the liver of the bear. So even when you win, even with the predator dead at your feet, it can still reach up and poison you. Hold on to that because it tells you something the math alone cannot. The danger of the predator does not end when its heart stops. And that danger has another side, one you feel in your bones instead of your stomach. We have been imagining that you win the fight. But step back and ask how often that is actually true. The animals we are talking about, lions, leopards, cave bears, big crocodiles, are not mammoths. A mammoth is huge, but it is a wall of meat that mostly wants to get away from you. A predator is the opposite. It is a purpose-built killing machine, fast, armed, and unlike its prey, it will close the distance on purpose. Even today, with rifles, hunting big cats gets people killed. With a wooden spear and bare skin, picking a fight with a leopard is not a hunt. It is a duel against a specialist at arm's length. And if somehow the teeth and the claws don't get you, the meat still might. Carnivores live in a part of the natural world that is thick with parasites and disease. Worms like trichinella that thrive in flesh eaters, and the kind of bugs that leap from animal to human and start outbreaks. Herbivore muscle is broadly a cleaner meal. Predator flesh, and especially predator organs, are a gamble. So stack it all up. To eat a predator, you first have to survive a close-quarters fight with the most dangerous animal in the landscape. And if you win, you might still be poisoned by its liver, or sickened by what is living in its meat. 3 ways to lose and 1 narrow, low-calorie way to win. No wonder it almost never happened. But all of this still assumes the most flattering version of the story, that we were the ones doing the hunting. And that, it turns out, is exactly the assumption we need to break. And here is the detail that closes the loop. On the rare occasions when a predator does start hunting people, it is almost never a healthy animal in its prime. It is the old one, the injured one, the starving one that can no longer catch anything faster than us. A true man-eater is usually a predator at the very end of its rope, which tells you something quietly profound. For both sides, hunting the other was never the plan. It was what happened when everything else had already gone wrong. So here's the last layer, and I saved it for the end on purpose, because it is the one that doesn't just change the answer. It changes you. We tell the story of prehistory as if we were always the hunter. Standing upright, spear raised, the most dangerous thing on 2 legs. But for an enormous stretch of our past, we weren't. We were lunch. In 2025, researchers did something clever. They trained an artificial intelligence on hundreds of microscopic images of bite marks, the tiny, specific signatures that different animals leave when they chew on bone. Then they fed it the fossilized bones of some of our earliest relatives, Homo habilis, nearly 2 million years old. The AI did not find tool marks where you would expect a proud little hunter. It found a match to a killer, a leopard. Sit with that for a second. Some of the first members of our family tree were not holding the weapon. They were the meal, dragged up a tree and eaten. And they were far from alone. For ages, our ancestors shared the land with lions and hyenas and big cats, and the bones tell us again and again that we were on the menu. So that clean image, human against lion, spear against fang, was never really the story. The real story is quieter and far more cunning. For most of our history, we were the nervous, clever animal that waited at the edges, the one that darted in to grab a carcass the lions had already killed, and sprinted off before they came back. We did not decline to eat the predators from some throne of dominance. We avoided them because for a very, very long time, they were the ones eating us. Our entire hunting style, fast, cautious, opportunistic, never ever picking the fight at the very top, is the behavior of a creature that has not forgotten what it is like to be prey. We are the animals that learn to thrive by staying off the menu, and there is harder proof still, locked inside the bones themselves. Scientists can actually read an animal's diet in the chemistry of its skeleton. The more meat it ate, the higher a certain signal climbs. And when they measure ancient humans, that signal is sky high, right up alongside the lions and the wolves. We were eating like top predators, but follow that meat back to its source and it leads over and over to the herbivores. We reached the top of the chain by devouring the middle of it and stepping carefully around the very top. Now I owe you some honesty, because never is a dangerous word. Humans did eat predators, sometimes, and the honest version is that those moments are the exceptions that prove the rule. Push a person to the edge of starvation and the math goes straight out the window, which is exactly what happened to those Arctic crews who ate the bear because the only other option was to die and then suffered horribly for it. In other times and places, a sliver of lion, a tiger's bone, a bear's paw became something else entirely. Not food, but a prestige object, a medicine, a thing you consumed for its meaning rather than its calories. And here is a detail that sharpens the whole contrast. We have clear evidence that ancient humans ate other humans. At Guff's Cave in England around 15,000 years ago, people carefully cleaned and shaped human skulls into cups. But the care, the craft, the patterns point to ritual, to ceremony, not to a desperate meal. Think about how strange that is. We turned each other into sacred objects more readily than we turned the lion into dinner. Every one of these exceptions is rare, driven by hunger or by symbolism, and they so reliably end in sickness, death, or ceremony that they don't break the pattern. They underline it. Across the deep history of our species, the predator was overwhelmingly the one thing you did not eat. And notice what we actually did with predators instead. We fought them. We pushed them off our land, out of our caves, sometimes all the way into extinction. But almost always as rivals to be removed, not as meals to be eaten. The lion wanted the same herds we did. So we treated it the way you treat a competitor, not a meal. We drove it away. We almost never sat down to dinner with it on the plate, which leaves us with one last beautiful twist, because the animals we refused to put in our mouths became the animals we could not get out of our heads. The anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss had a line for this that has never quite been topped. Certain animals, he said, are not just good to eat, they are good to think. And nothing on earth proves it like the predator. Look at what we chose to immortalize. We did not cover our cave walls with portraits of the humble deer that actually fed us. We painted the lion, the bear, the great cats, and we never stopped. Look around you right now today. The lion, the eagle, the bear, the wolf, they are on coats of arms, on the flags of nations, on the badge of nearly every team that ever wanted to feel strong. The creatures that once stalked our ancestors through the dark are the exact ones we now carve into thrones and stitch onto banners and call our protectors. We even flipped the whole relationship. The predators that used to hunt us are now the ones we spend fortunes trying to save. So go back, one last time, to that plain. 50,000 years ago, you, the lion, and the kill in the dirt between you. You do not go after it. Not out of fear, not out of worship, not because it tastes bad, but because somewhere deep inside you, an older mind has already done the arithmetic, remembered the poison, and remembered the teeth in the dark. So you lower your eyes and you walk away. And tens of thousands of years later, your descendants will take that same lion, the one you were wise enough to leave alone, and they will set it on a flag and crown it the king of the beasts. So that is why, for nearly all of human history, the predator was the one animal we would not eat. But there is a strange, final twist to this story, and it is playing out right now, tonight, all over the world. Because somewhere along the way, the fear flipped. Think about it for a second. Today, a person can crawl into a thin nylon tent in a forest full of bears and wolves and big cats, fall completely asleep, utterly helpless, and wake up in the morning without a scratch. The very animals that once dragged our ancestors into the dark now go out of their way to avoid us. The hunted somehow became the most feared thing in the entire forest. How that happened, how you flipped from prey into the predator that every other predator now quietly fears, is a whole story of its own. And it is sitting right there on your screen. Go and see how you became the scariest thing in the woods, even fast asleep.